Hi, suppose this could serve as a sort of follow-up to the last one, and I know I said I wasn't going to speak about it extensively and talk about other subjects. I will. If I get time, I'll talk about the Tory leadership contest. But I think this follow-up is appropriate, because with the whole fallout with Harry and Meghan, um, the question's constantly been raised, is there any hope of reconciliation? And every time there's been a big royal story, whether it be the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the coronation of Charles III, um, and the medical problems that Catherine and the King have had, there has been questions about, will it be reconciliation? Will it be an opportunity for reconciliation? Um, I think some people don't care. Some Republicans will say it's all a royal soup drama. We don't care. The whole thing should be dismantled. Well, just as a disclaimer, I'm not a Republican. I am a royalist. I believe it's an important part of our country. I think it's a central part of our culture. I think it's a central part of British identity in many ways. I'm not saying that we should never ever consider the idea, but I don't think now is the time. I think that consistent opinion polls show support for the monarchy. I like Charles as a king. I think he's a good king. I think he's a good constitutional monarch. Um, and I just have no appetite for seeing this country as a republic. It's also worth pointing out that the most egalitarian societies in the world, i.e., the Nordic states, are monarchies. So it's not a useful conclusion to say dispelling the monarchy is a guarantee that will be a more equal society. If you look at some of the social problems experienced in the United States and in France, they're republicans. They're republics. So it's not it's not a guarantee that being a republic guarantees more egalitarian society. That is not the case. In fact, in the French system, French presidents have often been accused of having a palatial lifestyle, with residence and residences and palaces across France. But that's beside the point. So I'm a royalist, but this video is not so much about monarchy versus republicanism. By the way, I support the right for Republicans to have the voice. I like the fact that Britain is not Thailand. You won't go to prison for insulting the king or questioning monarchy. I don't think people should. Britain is not Thailand. So that's another thing. Because during those royal events that I named, Republicans were trying to portray like we were some sort of totalitarian state, that they weren't allowed an opinion. Nonsense. They could freely voice their opinions. Just that the police, understandably, didn't want any security incidents near members of the royal family. It was just obvious what was going on there. But on the issue of so yeah, there is a contingent of people who just don't care. Um, and obviously, what I say in this video, they will be of no relevance because they'll just say, well, the whole thing should be discarded. But I'm talking more about, I guess, people who support the monarchy and um, who who feel what is a way going forward here, because monarchists themselves will have different views. Some monarchists will want to see reconciliation, and some will say, you know what, Harry and Meghan burned the bridge, let them get on with it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I do echo a lot of what I said in the last video. I do feel that Harry and Meghan have kept digging themselves deeper, and I think they have definitely burned bridges with some of the approach that they have taken. But you know what? I don't take any pleasure from this. I think it is a sad thing to see. In 2018, we were talking about the new Fab Four, which was a bit, itchy, a bit cheesy. The new Fab Four: William, Catherine, Harry, and Meghan. Obviously, that didn't work out. Um, and it's sad, I, like many Britons, I was welcoming of Meghan. I thought, yeah, this is the face of the royal family now. This is the future. These four young people who are, engaged in a lot of charity work. They carry themselves well. I was optimistic. I thought it was a good thing. So I take no pleasure from seeing what has subsequently happened. And, as someone who's had my own issues with siblings, not to get too much into personal stuff, I empathize with sibling rivalry, with sibling fallouts. Indeed, many people will be able to relate to that. It's not an unusual thing in a family. The problem is when that family happens to be probably the most famous family in the world, then it's magnified. Um, I hope there is reconciliation, but the reason why I think it is a challenge is because Harry particularly goes into this, I think, looking at it is entirely one-sided. I think Harry will go into any sort of overtures for reconciliation as I am the victim. I demand apologies, um, and I want what I'm demanding, rather than maybe reaching out a bit and saying, "Okay, I'm sorry, I done that interview." I don't think Harry will do that, and I think this is the problem. I think this is why reconciliation is going to be difficult. Genuine reconciliation is give and take. It's about saying, "Look, this is how I feel about this. I'm not happy about this. Can you address that point? Can you try to improve?" But it's also about saying, look, I was wrong to do that. If I hurt you in that way, I take responsibility for that. That's how genuine reconciliation should work, whether it be between individuals or even in conflict resolution between nation states. Problem with with the Windsor dynasty is you have a situation where you have someone, Prince Harry, who is utterly, utterly absorbed in self-pity. And I think he is. Um, so I think for him, reconciliation is all a one-way street. Now, William might understand that they feel upset about the fact that the royal family and himself, by extension, were dragged into these smears about racism. I remember that time where William had to fend off a journalist shouting the question, "Is your family racist?" No, we're very much not racist. Harry, cynically, has tried to now claim that he didn't say that. He's tried to blame the media for that. This guy will not take responsibility for anything he says and does. And for a 40-year-old man, that's pretty childish, actually. Um, I think it's just that's the problem with reconciliation. I mean, I want to see it. I hope it happens. But unfortunately, it's hard to see. I'd be surprised if Meghan Markle ever sets foot in this country again. Not because when she arrives, there's going to be some racist, mob that will make her feel unwelcome. It's because she has decided herself that she doesn't like Britain, and I don't think she wants to be here. I think also, inevitably it will be awkward if there was a situation where they were to meet the royal family again. I think there has been sort of brief intermissions. There was another time when the statue of Diana was unveiled and Harry and William briefly appeared together, but there was I don't think there was any formal sit down on that occasion. And I think Harry and Meghan, of course, came over for the Queen's state funeral. Only Harry came for the King's coronation. It's worth pointing out, incidentally, Meghan famously has difficult relations with her own father. Well, on her wedding day, who was it brought her down the aisle? Um, Now, the king, then Prince Charles. He's the one that stepped in and brought her down the aisle. So some people would say it's a bit ungrateful that she couldn't turn up on his big day. But I don't read too much into that. She has young children, etc. Fine, But I really think when it comes to reconciliation, it will only work if it works both ways. Now, maybe the King, William, Catherine do need to say, look, we handled certain aspects badly. If you feel aggrieved about this, we're sorry. We'll address this. But it works both ways. And I think the problem is the royal family, that inner sort of core. And, I haven't mentioned the Queen. Camilla is also a factor in this. I think Camilla, Charles, William, and Catherine will also be expecting a little bit more of, you done that interview. You basically smeared this family in front of the world. Do you have any regrets over that? There's another point. When we hear these rumors about reconciliation, I think one reason why sit down meetings tend to not happen is because there's genuine fear in royal circles. Well, Harry's just going to put this in a book. Basically, he's burned trust because his track record is tell all, If there's some slight that he thinks he's experienced, he'll just put it in a book. So can anyone really blame the King and William for maybe being reluctant to sit down? I understand the King is. keen to do it. But if William is reluctant, maybe that's the reason why. Maybe he doesn't want his brother just spreading everything out to the public domain. Is it unreasonable for William to say, okay, let's have reconciliation, but let's do it privately? This is a family matter, let's do it privately. The problem is Harry cannot be trusted. He'll put it all in a book. Can he say to William, no, I'm not going to do that? He's already burned trust, I think, with that awful Oprah interview. And I don't accept the argument, oh, they had no choice about it. Of course they had a choice. Oprah Winfrey's one of the world's most prominent talk show presenters, you know, media personalities. They would have known that that would have got massive attention. So, I mean, at least with Princess Diana, she was misled by Martin Bashir. So it's a different situation. I don't think Harry and Meghan can say they were misled by Oprah. So it's a different situation. Anyway, I do feel sad by it because one thing about a royal family, it's not only an institution and a part of our culture, it is fundamentally family. And one duty of a monarch, aside from all the constitutional state rules, is actually keeping a family together. And so it's a sad start to the king's reign that, there's this feud between his second son um, and and his side of the family. I mean, it's a sad thing. There is different approaches. I understand Charles is more traditional. He likes to write letters, whereas Harry obviously likes to put things in books and, do interviews. I think if there's going to be any reconciliation, it's give and take. Maybe it will be a case that William and the King and Camilla and Catherine have to listen and say, okay, you're upset about this. We'll listen and we'll address that. We'll try and improve. But I really think it would be unreasonable to say it's just them. I think they must have been very hurt by that interview. And the problem with Prince Harry is he has no humility. It's all me, me, me. I'm a victim. So what's Harry going to do to reconcile? People might say, well, he's made efforts by coming to this country, for example, for his father's coronation. But is that really an attempt at reconciliation, or is it just because he knows he'll be criticised by the press if he doesn't? Um, I think if Harry really wants reconciliation, he has to basically say, okay, that's it now. I'm not doing any more interviews, and actually show some humility and accept that that was a mistake to do that, and apologise to his family for what he done to them with that interview. I think that was despicable. Whatever grievances he had, whatever legitimate grievances he had, to make it so public, I think was reprehensible. For me, that is it's just. I mean, I can imagine if I had a falling out with someone in my family and they plastered that to the world, it would be deeply hurtful and shocking and destroy any chance of reconciliation. So I think there is a big onus here on Harry, frankly. Um, Meghan, I don't think she's going to come over here. There's been rumors about, they've got strains in their marriage. Who knows? Who knows? But Harry is kind of like the lost prince in some ways. It's almost like he has an identity crisis in the sense that he's constantly complaining. That's what the book Spare was all about how awful his life supposedly is. And yet, he got what he wanted. He wanted privacy. He wanted to go to the United States. I'm just repeating what I said in the last video, but I do hope there's reconciliation because no one should take any pleasure from a family so publicly. Like I said in the last video, it's like Jeremy Kyle on steroids. It's just, it's a sad thing to see. And I'm not really interested in all the gossipy side of it. I think it's a sad thing to see. But I think the only way there could be reconciliation if both parties take some responsibility. And as I see it, it's a case of Harry making demands and expecting that he's just treated like a victim. And it's all one sided, and they should all apologise and pander to him instead of him giving a little bit in return and saying, okay, I shouldn't have done that interview. And I'm sorry if I hurt you by doing that. I think that's the only way there's going to be reconciliation. And unfortunately, because of Harry's self absorbed personality, I'm not talking about everything he does. Like I say, he's done charity work, he's done the Invictus Games, but I'm talking about in terms of his fame. He's self-absorbed. Um, that's the only way there's going to be reconciliation. I mean, yeah, it is sad to see, a lot of people will blame Meghan for this. I'll actually say that's a little bit unfair. Harry is a grown man. Um, some people portray Meghan like the Yoko Ono of this, so she broke up because ostensibly William and Harry were very close before. Um, I don't know. Who knows the deeper psychology there? I certainly think Meghan's personality isn't helpful, but I actually wouldn't put all the blame on her in this regard. Prince Harry's a grown man. He's responsible for his own decisions. He's responsible for his own attitude. He could have disagreed with his wife and said, "No, that interview's a bad idea." I'm not sure who pushed it actually, whether it was Meghan or Harry, but he could have disagreed with her. He said, "No, this isn't the right way to go about things." Or she could have disagreed with him. She could have said, "Do you really think this is a good idea?" I think they both pushed it actually. That's my own feeling. Um, but yeah, I actually wouldn't blame Meghan for all of Harry's attitudes and all of his actions. I think that's, yeah, I wouldn't go there, but I think both of them come across as extremely self-absorbed. Um, and I hope there's reconciliation, but I think the only way it happens is if it's a two-way street. And I think the Sussexes want it to be a one-way street, or specifically Harry. He expects him to just pander to him, just to grovel in apologies and just recognize all of his pain and suffering, but he's not going to show anything in return. That's how it comes across. I could be wrong. Maybe he is saying, look, maybe privately he's apologizing. I'd be surprised because it would go against what we've seen so far. But I think that is the only way there's going to be reconciliation. I hope there is, but watch this space. I think it's probably unlikely, and unfortunately, it will just get deeper and deeper over time. I mean, it would be wonderful to see one day, both of them, Harry and Meghan, coming back to this country and having some big royal event where there's a show of unity and everyone's ostensibly happy. That would be wonderful. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. Um, but you know what? King of the United Kingdom has many other things on his plate. This is important, it's the king's son, obviously. He loves his son, he cares about his son, it's important. But as monarch, he also has other responsibilities. So um, it probably shouldn't be the number one priority, although it is important.